Hey, this is Carl, and today we're going to talk about this quarter scale Iron Man Mark 85 by Iron Studios. So stay tuned. Before we start, two reasons why I pre-ordered this Iron Man. First is, I love the MCU and I got into collecting because of the MCU. And I love Marvel because of the MCU. And I have zero knowledge about comics actually, simply because I can't afford them back then when I was still a kid. Second reason is, most of you know I love Iron Man. He was the first one I was looking for when I started collecting, but most, if not all, are already sold out. And only this was available for pre-order back in 2019. Didn't realize it back then, but it was actually quite expensive compared now to the Iron Man line by Queen Studios. So let's start talking about this Iron Man statue. This is actually part of Iron Studios' Endgame line, which consists of Thanos, which I already have actually, a Fat Thor, and a Captain America. Didn't get Fat Thor because I just can't see Chris Hemsworth's face in the portrait. And as for Captain America, I'm just waiting if Queen Studios would make one. So let's talk about the concept of this statue. The base for the three Avengers are interconnected with each other, with Iron Man being at the middle since he is on top of the Avengers logo, as you can see. So everything on the front of the statue are concrete, and you can actually see some iron rods between the crack right here. At the back of the statue, what we can see is a similar flooring to that of the Thanos statue that I have. Just the ground with some grass on top. And there's actually a broken glass that's more similar to the base of Captain America. And below that is we kinda see the sub-base of what's underneath the ground. This is very common nowadays to make the base more interesting. Now we see this smoke effect on Iron Man's booster on his right leg. Honestly, it doesn't look all that good even with the lights on. The Sideshow Iron Man Mark 7 is 100% better with or without the lights. Next is we see Iron Man on a flying kind of pose. He is heavily weathered and I kinda wish they didn't make him like that. But more on that later on the paint part of the review. Also, this statue lights up. As you can see, he's currently light up. So let me turn that off for a second. Okay, that's off. And this is on. The booster or smoke lights up. His palm lights up, his chest, and the laser thing at his back, and the booster thing at his back as well. Actually, the left hand or palm doesn't light up because it's broken. Well, it won't be a Carl statue without problems, right? Lastly this is the deluxe or exclusive version of this Iron Man. So it comes with this torso switch out with the cannons at the back and the Robert Downey Jr. portrait here. While the regular version only has the plain torso, which is this one, and the mass portrait. Now, let's talk about the sculpt. On the base, we can find a lot of rough textures on this concrete, making it look and even feel like it's real. There's even more textures and details at the back of the statue, and even in between the cracks, which I showed you guys earlier. Next, the sculpt on this smoke or booster is a bit odd. I don't really like it at all. I don't know what they are going for here, if it's smoke or flames from the booster. All I can say is that Sideshow Mark 7 did it better. This doesn't look good whether it's smokes or flames, to be honest. Next is Iron Man. Anatomy is perfect, no questions there. I compared this Iron Man versus Hot Toys Iron Man Mark 85 and some movie references from Google. It did capture most, if not all, of the details on Tony's armor. This is a licensed piece after all, and they have reference to the armor. As you can see, this Iron Man is heavily weathered out, but this isn't sculpt, it's actually paint, but more on that later. Lastly is the Robert Downey Jr. portrait. All I can say is you can't get more Robert Downey Jr. than this. 100% well done, though I'm not going to use it, but I would always prefer displaying Iron Man with the mask on. But I kinda wish that they made a torso stand for this regular torso switch out, so I can display the torso plus the portrait beside the statue. Now, let's talk about the paint. Paint on the base is okay. Nothing really special about it. It's pretty consistent from my Thanos one. My wife told me that she doesn't like the paint on the base and that it looks fake. I don't know what she sees, but it seems to look okay to me. Not the best of paint job, but it's definitely acceptable. Next is the booster thing. It's not really convincing even with the lights on. Even worse when the lights is off, since it's actually clear resin and there's not a lot of paint there to signify if it's smoke or fire. Next is the paint on Iron Man himself. I prefer him to be clean actually. This weathering is also kinda similar to the Iron Studios Iron Spider-Man that I have. But this one is definitely better since the Iron Spider-Man's weathering is too flat. While the weathering on this one does have textures to it. But I really prefer that they would have made him clean. Also, I don't like the paint use on the gray areas on his armor. Looks plasticky than metal. Maybe some shading would have helped, but this statue actually doesn't have a single shading on it. Well, I actually don't like having shading on the red and gold areas, but I think the gray areas needs those shadings, especially this booster at his back. It just looks too flat with the flat gray color without shading. Lastly is the paint on the portrait. It's painted nicely like typical Sideshow en masse portraits. The blood dripping on his right eye does have a gloss or wet effect, which is nice. There's also a lot of weathering on the face. Kinda looks like that he got smoke by a car or something. And lots of highlights on the hair, which is nice. But I kinda wish that his hair is a bit darker. Lastly is his eyes are decals and also has the glow wet effect. Again, a very nice touch to make it more realistic. So that's the end of the video. Comment down below on what you think of this statue. Me personally, I'm a bit disappointed with the paint, and this was supposed to be a personal grail to me, but the paint kinda rubbed me off my expectations, I guess. Anyway, I could always have this repainted, but not really a priority since I want to prioritize custom statues first. Since this isn't really that bad, it's just not what I wanted. Like and subscribe. This is Carl, and see you in the next one.